Right.
So we've got an impromptu Ashes live session. This is the third one we've done. It's Old Trafford. It's day 3. Lots happened. England are firmly on top. Can we put a big enough dent in these guys? And is the rain going to stay away, Mr. Bostonley?
Well, we have to. What do you reckon? How many do you think we need tonight?
5.
5. I think 5.
Yeah, 5 wickets a minimum. So as things stand, there's always a bit of a lag with this, with the way we do these live sessions for a StreamYard. But 68 for 2, and we've got the 2 big dogs in Labuschagne and Smith. Smith, when I was driving to your house, but I had the incident of Joe Root appearing to catch Steve Smith, I think off the bowling of Wokes.
Yeah.
I didn't see it. Did you see it?
I did see it. My natural reaction was not out. It was touch and go, but it was one of them where the umpire, like, Root didn't claim it, then kind of said, "Oh, I think that's out," and then they went upstairs, and none of the pitchers particularly gave it conclusively out. So it's just one of them. You got to stick with it.
Shall we reflect a little bit on this Test match as a whole, because we did an Old Trafford preview. So obviously, day 1, England win the toss again, throw Australia into bat. Satisfied with the bowling performance?
Yeah, it was great. I mean, this has been the ideal. Apart from the weather, obviously, this has been the ideal Test match, hasn't it?
Yeah, I've heard Old Trafford get a lot of stick, but I think it's one of the best looking grounds live when it's full.
Yeah, I saw some tweets of people saying like it's just full of ugly buildings, like ugly red buildings.
I think it's quite unique.
I think it's really coming on as a ground.
It is, and it's that temporary stand that we are due to sit in tomorrow, weather permitting, is a bit of a phenomenon, isn't it?
Yeah, they like to. I mean, I think they do bang on about it a little bit too much.
For the record, it's very safe, isn't it? I think.
Yeah. I think
there's got to be some thought behind that. Anyone who works in structural steel, perhaps who listens to this podcast, might be able to tell us.
They must have some serious insurance out on liability there, but
so good day bowling Australia out relatively modestly. I think what impressed me is that everyone got a start, and England managed to nip them in the bud. It was very reminiscent to what we found with Australia, I thought, in the first Test match at Edgbaston, where England batsmen were doing the same, making a start, and then there's pulled us back. Yeah. Really good example, because it looked like a pitch where more runs were available, and England obviously proved that on day 2, didn't they?
It's obviously a great batting wicket. I mean, like you say, all of Australia got a start. We've seen big score from best part of 600 from England. That's what worries me with the rain around is, what have we got left in this day? We've probably got 2-3 sessions left in the match, if you believe the weather forecasts. We've got to make a big dent in it today, and it does look like a good pitch. And obviously, these two are brilliant at this kind of cricket, shutting up shop. So I think Mark Wood's going to be crucial. I think Moeen Ali will be crucial because he does have a wicket ball in him. It is spinning. It is invariable bounce. I think that's important. And a brilliant batting performance by England. I mean, Crawley. There's a great narrative really if England go on to win this Test.
I'd like to say that I think we've been a very pro-Zach Crawley podcast. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think we definitely tried to keep the balance with him. He obviously is a really talented player, and I mean, we've seen the upside there of Crawley.
For sure, yeah.
He obviously doesn't have the best stats in the world, but I think that they'll get better. Hopefully, this innings gives him the confidence to get those stats better. But it was just brilliant. I mean, it kind of is one of those things. It's like having Jason Roy in your Test side. Is when he can go and get 189 off 182 balls or whatever it was. It just puts the game in fast forward. Australia couldn't play the cricket. If Australia were in our position and needed to win this Test match, they couldn't play at the pace that we play at to force a result. And I suppose that's all credit to this team's way of playing more than anything.
For sure. I think with Zach Crawley, what impresses me is the fact that the Australian tactic to sort of dismantle England has been this kind of, bumper kind of thing, all Australian, just give them some chin music. Because Zach Crawley's such a tall lad, have you noticed how he tends to pull downwards?
Yeah.
He seems to be, because he's got that elevation in obviously his stature and how he stands, he's able to actually
keep on top
of it, exactly, but not let it phase him as much as perhaps maybe Duckets of the world, which aren't as tall as Crawley.
And I think the one thing that Crawley's really got in his advantage is he's scored runs now against Stark and Cummins and Hazelwood, probably the best seam attack. He obviously can play high quality, high pace seam bowling, and then that shows it's about getting consistency into his game. That he's got the goods really. If you can play 90 mile an hour bowling, you are a Test match cricketer.
Yeah.
You just need to join up those scores more than anything.
Very promising. I'm just going to try and broadcast us a little bit, because I don't think this was quite a short notice.
Let me take my jumper off.
Do you know how I do this?
What?
This broadcasting.
What do you mean?
Oh, I can tell the fans to plug into us.
I'll put it on. Put it on. Forward that. 212 men story on your normal Insta. Anyway, so while you're doing that, Australia's 68 for 2. The game in the balance in many respects. All of the pushing, all of the running needs to be done by England. They obviously have Mark Wood. He's going to be absolutely crucial. And it feels like it is just like a race against time to save these Ashes, really, isn't it?
It does, yeah. But
a race against the weather.
It does, yeah, for sure. But I think one thing to be encouraged by with this is that, again, the story's continued, hasn't it? It's been another unique sort of Test match. They've all been unique in their own ways. And this one, obviously, I think the weather element adds to a little bit of the context of the story. It's not ideal,
yeah.
You know. And like I said to you on text, I think beating Australia is difficult enough as it is, without obviously having to contend with the weather. But you know, this is obviously it's just the way the game is. It's rare that England are so on top in Ashes games. I think someone was trying to compare this. This must be England's. Well, yesterday must have been England's most dominant game in the Ashes since 2010, 2011. The tour down under. Do you agree?
Yeah, I suppose there was that Test match where Broad got 8 for 15. I think that's like 2013, 15.
Oh, I suppose, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, in terms of if we saw this as kind of this Bazball model, this is the most complete performance or against this Australian side of this is the way we're going to play. Yeah. We're going to stick you in. We're happy to chase. We're going to put on big totals. We're going to score at 5 and over. I mean, you've obviously been a big advocate of Ben Foakes, and understandably so. He obviously has many qualities that Johnny Bairstow doesn't have behind the stumps. But I think we saw the upside that Johnny Bairstow provides that Ben Foakes probably can't provide this afternoon, didn't we? In terms of that pure destruction. I think at one point he wasn't far off getting the fastest ever Test match 100 for an Englishman. So
it's a different, like I said to you downstairs, a different kind of skill, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, being able to withstand heavy pressure, a bit like what these chaps are doing now, is one skill, but really moving the scoreboard along and taking the game away from the opposition is another skill, which Bairstow does have.
And I think particularly with the tactics that Australia has set against England, I think everybody was out on the boundary at the end of that innings. Bairstow's just hitting it over them, going straight for sixes. That means that we can kind of take the outfield out of the equation. You don't have to run hard, and it's a unique quality that really, you know,
it is.
Stokes, Bairstow are those lads in the middle order that can really do that for England.
So where we're looking at now, but we're 75 for 2. It's coming past 5:15. Play goes on till about 6:30, more or less. So we've got, you know, maybe the best part of an hour and 45 minutes or so.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to force a result today. You just got to, like we say, you got to try your best to get them 5 down. I think this is the key partnership for Australia. So breaking this partnership is massive.
Well, I think if they can get one of these guys out now, surely then, you know, it leads to your Travis Heads of the world, the batsmen that aren't sort of built to kind of withstand long overs. They're here for a good time, not a long time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and obviously with the team that Australia have picked, they do bat really deep, and it's always hard a second time round to get a team out. You know, you don't skittle a side in both innings. You know, in high quality Test match cricket, so it is going to be difficult. You're going to have to.
What are the key to wickets then? What do you think? What's England's basis to sort of exploit Australia here?
Well, we have seen, particularly from I think it's the James Anderson end, we've seen invariable bounce. You know, it's been going up and down. We've seen some skid through. That's important for Wood with the higher pace, but I think also Broad brings that in terms of having a little bit more natural bounce. That it will be more invariable when he gets it into the wicket. We might see him go to the short ball ploy at some point, like we've seen throughout the series. I can imagine that. And I mean, Woakes has been on fire really since he's come into the side. So in many ways, I think he's just got to keep on doing what he's been doing. What
interests me is the root dismissal, the grubber. You know, the one that sort of kept really low. I don't know if you've seen much of that now. I heard one on TMS when I was driving to yours. A wider delivery that Broad bowled that sort of grubbed significantly. I'm not sure which end this is at. You think Starks of the world, pounding in the overs yesterday, have created these kind of footholds.
It looks dry, doesn't it? There's a lot of rough around that. Ali should get some purchase from this pitch.
For sure, Brad, for sure.
I mean, we've got our Just Stop Oil friend, as always. So, thanks for joining us.
Got good cause.
Sri Lankan viewer. We always get a bit of action from the Sri Lankans, don't we?
Brilliant cricket nation.
Yeah. Just to take a step away from the Ashes for a second, India continue to march on against West Indies. I think Kohli's got his first 100 for a long time. I think that's years and years since he's got a Test 100, so he's finally got there.
Yeah.
I'm sure there'll be lots of Twitter activity on the back of that.
Kohli's back. Do you think Kohli's best Test days are behind him?
Yeah. I think in many ways, though, it feels like Root's best Test days are in front of him since Stokes has taken over the reins.
Yeah, very free spirit these days, isn't he? And I think, you're looking at Root, there's no signs of him sort of deteriorating, is there? Sometimes when batsmen reach their 30s, you see something less and like they're not as quite as sharp off the hips as they used to be, or their eyes not as good. But Root just seems as tuned in as ever, doesn't he?
Yeah, and it feels like with Root, yesterday was perfect for him in terms of Crawley obviously going brilliantly. But it's just amazing how he comes in and he just ticks over, and before you know it, it's 40 off 38 balls. Just gets a score out of nowhere. It reminds me,
do you remember when we had the team, I think it might have been 2013-14, might be wrong, but we had Ian Bell just stuck in as a little bit of a stalwart, didn't he?
Yeah.
And he's just experienced. He was just so laid back. He'd done it all. He'd won Ashes before. He'd been in successful England teams. And he was just kind of just there playing freely. And we could always lean on him. Couldn't we, remember? It was just a steady, he came in at about 4 or 5. I think he had a really good Ashes that year.
Yeah, no, I remember that year. Because before that, Bell didn't really have a great Ashes record, did he?
No, he was very subcontinent, wasn't he?
Yeah.
That's where I think he's obviously a brilliant cover drive as well. I sometimes sit and watch Ian Bell cover drives in the toilet.
Well, the less said about that, the better. So we look at Anderson now. He's got he bowled 6 overs for 8 runs.
Yeah, he feels something has to happen. If England are going to, bit of nip in there. If you feel England are going to really, start to infiltrate Australia, you feel that. Well, you've talked about some of the inroads, haven't you, with Wood and maybe Ali, but you think this is James Anderson been brought back into the team, based on his obviously historical performances and the legend of him himself. You feel this is where, even despite everything he's achieved, England need the most, don't we? His home ground, his home end.
Yeah.
Has he not bowled from his end yet? Has he consistently bowled from his own end, or has he been tried from the other end?
I think he's bowled from both ends, to be fair to him. I just think probably if it's wet around in the next couple of days, you probably bring Anderson into it. He can nip around. It does look flat at the moment. So I think in many ways his role right now is a holding role.
Yeah.
Keep the pressure, the scoring rate low, allow the others to rotate from the other end. Yeah. I mean, Ali's not particularly a holding spinner, but he's a spinner that can get you a wicket.
Yeah. Wicket balls can be a bit expensive, but obviously it's a perfect scenario with England having plenty of runs on board.
So, I mean, at what point do you think England would start, if we take weather out of it? There's obviously a high chance that they wake up tomorrow and it's rain's bedded in.
Yeah, we'll look pretty snooker tomorrow, don't we?
Yeah. At what point do you think England would start to get worried from an Australian run scoring perspective? Australia have to pile the runs on here, don't they?
Well, they don't seem to be batting very aggressively. I'm looking at a side now that's looking to see out today. And maybe it's the sort of batsmen that do that. It's how Steve Smith and Labuschagne compile the runs, isn't it? They sort of wear you down, grind you until you start to get sloppy, the odd loose delivery, and then they capitalise. I think the flow of wickets depends as well. So if one of these goes, do we see a different Steve Smith? Do we see? Because we have seen Steve Smith become attritional at times, haven't we? Yeah. When he needs to be. I think back to Edgbaston in 2018-19. When he was back with Nathan Lyon, he just kind of said to him at one point, Nathan Lyon saying, "Let's get to 270." I think he said something like, "Buck off, let me have the strike, and we'll get to 315." So that sums him up.
I can imagine. I mean, the cricket script writers, you can imagine Stokes deciding that he needs to bowl at some point and getting a Smith wicket.
I just think that knee's knackered, isn't it, mate?
He was warming up bowling when they came out before, so it's obviously not out of the realms of possibility.
I think what we're seeing here is a couple. I think one of the likely wickets from any bowler, any pace on bowler, is we're seeing a bit of drag on, aren't we?
Yeah,
we're seeing that sort of delay.
It's got a bit of a subcontinental feel, this pitch, hasn't it? It looks really dry.
Yeah,
it looks like you probably start to get catches in front of the wicket.
Yeah,
just bowl straight to them, see which ones go up and down, see if you can get them caught in the covers or one grubs along, it feels like that kind of day, unless you've got a Mark Wood who's going to come in and,
which we have got now,
get some up around the head, and you go for the bouncer tactic.
So for people listening, what do you think? What's the advantage of having someone as quick as Wood on a pitch like this?
I suppose in many ways it takes the pitch out of the equation, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's a bit of a cliche, but if the pitch isn't assisting the bowlers from going side to side, you do need someone who's a bit quicker through the air.
Yeah.
Got the bouncer, got the Yorker, and if the pitch does start to become a bit too paced, if it's too paced at 95 mile an hour,
yeah,
it's a lot less time to react than if it is at.
It brings other bowlers into the game as well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because it's conscious on your mind. We're just showing some stats here that Wood's taken Labuschagne's wicket 3 times, which is great considering obviously this is only Wood's second Test match of the series. You feel that every time Wood comes on, England, even if there's been like a spell where England have had a drought of wickets, they're all of a sudden back in contention.
Yeah. There was a documentary on Sky over lunchtime around Wood, and I must admit, he is one of the likeable cricketers of the English setup, isn't he? From a mining town in the northeast.
Yeah.
Very working class, I suppose. Quite a rarity, really.
I think he's a very hyperactive personality as well, isn't he?
Yeah.
And I think the England team know that he probably needs a swarm of positivity to get the best out of him.
Yeah. And comes from a good cricket club, Ashington. That's where Harmison
grew right?
up. Yeah. So
Ashington, is that sort of like in between like Newcastle and Sunderland?
Yeah, I think it's a bit further up from Newcastle.
Oh, is it? Right. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, not a bad cricket club when you produce Wood and Harmison, probably two of the fastest bowlers England's ever produced.
Durham have got a good record of fast bowlers, haven't they?
Yeah.
Sure. It's a shame, but we're touching on Durham. We mentioned this on the podcast, though. Can you believe no Ashes Test matches north of Trent Bridge next time round?
Yeah, Andy Burnham was on TMS, I saw this afternoon, saying that he'd written an open letter to the ECB.
Nice to see politicians that fight for cricket, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I think I understand.
I mean, when people say keep politics out of sport, you can never keep politics out of sport, can you? No. In fact, you kind of need politics to operate sport at times.
Well, they're very intertwined, aren't they? Sports come from communities. Communities are part of politics. It's all the same thing, really. But in many ways, I think places like Hampshire, the Rose Bowl, should get a Test match. That's fine. But even if it wasn't Headingley or Old Trafford that had an Ashes Test match, there needs to be one at Durham. There needs to be one in the north. That
you have to ask the question, because we've been talking about the comparables between the experiences at the Oval and the experiences of what we're supposedly going to get tomorrow in terms of food and beverage for the overall day. Is there just the sheer cost of London grounds you can ill afford to sort of cash in on that sort of money? Because they're obviously bankers, are they? They're one of the biggest capacities.
I just think.
You know what I mean? So what you're saying is, I'm not saying don't give Southampton a Test match, but if you're going to bring that in, you're going to have to budget out the way another ground, and it seems like the London grounds. To be honest, there's always going to be a Lord's Test because it's just Lord's, and the Oval's always been the kind of last Test ground, hasn't it? So they've kind of got those permanent fixtures stuck in there, haven't they?
Yeah, but then it starts to be like, oh well, we always play well at Edgbaston, so that has to be a permanent fixture. You only have 2 slots left, then, don't you, for Ashes, and it's only every 4 years. I think it could be looked at whether there always needs to be 2 London Tests in an Ashes. If you look at the summer of English cricket, we'll have 6 Test matches over the summer, and 3 of them will be in London. Do you think
yeah, we'll come back to that. I've just seen Mark Woods. He's changing. He's changing. Is that quite common? The ball is in one hand, and just before he bowls, he moves it.
So I suppose that's most common when it looks like it's reversing. So maybe that's why they've held him back, that they think there might be a bit of reverse swing.
How old's this ball now? 25 overs. So we should hopefully start to get some of that in this pitch.
Might see a bit of tail. They're obviously coming into.
They're going for the LB here, aren't they?
Yeah, we must be careful with licensing, but I can't fully commentate on it. But yeah, I'd expect that it looks like they're going for the LB here, tailing it back into his pads.
So go on, you were saying about the Oval.
So yeah, do you think at 6 Test matches this summer, do you think it's right that 50% of the Test matches are best part of 3 miles apart? 2 at Lords.
I think this is right. What we've got now, the order, what we've got, it's the exact same as the last Ashes. I think the best grounds have got the Test matches for Test match cricket. For the Ashes.
But what I'm saying is, do Southampton not get themselves in a position there where they never get an Ashes Test match?
Potentially, yeah.
Because I suppose
there's other forms of cricket, but there's ODIs, there's T20s. International cricket doesn't have to be starved from these grounds.
No, but I suppose the real problem with there not being a Northern Test matches after the report that said that cricket was an elitist sport.
Yeah.
Amongst other things, lots of ills within the game.
Mm-hmm.
Straight after that, we decided that there's no kind of Test matches in the North. Now that looks like a clear North-South divide in how the administrators see the game.
Yeah. Bear in mind, anyone in London thinks anything north of Watford is a North.
Yeah, well, and they're the people who are making the decisions, aren't they? So I suppose what you've got to ask yourself is, realistically, you can't always have 2 in London if you want to share the game about. I think that we should be sharing the game about in a way that we have about, I think we have 7 Test match grounds if you include Durham.
I mean, what's a Test match ground though?
Durham, Cardiff, Nottingham are all Test match grounds that aren't being used in this Ashes series. So there's 8. They have to have Ashes Test matches every now and then.
But let's just
Hampshire as well. Sorry, that's
well, let's balance it out there. The biggest theatre, the biggest stages. You do have to take infrastructure into play with that. So you do have to look at size, how many people you can fit in. Last time I checked, Chesterley Street holds, is it barely more than 10,000, isn't it?
Yeah, but you can build a temporary stand like Old Trafford does. You know what I mean? Old Trafford doesn't hold like as many when that big scaffolding isn't
like a yellow wall at Durham, Borussia Dortmund. Yeah.
So I don't know. I do think we have to consider, like, as we I think it's more for the London grounds to consider whether we actually need so many Test matches there. Is one thing. Not that there should definitely be a Test match in the North in an Ashes series. It's when everyone tunes in, cricket lovers, non-cricket lovers.
So Andy Burnham's read a letter and he's not pleased.
And in the letter, he wasn't specifically saying Old Trafford needs one. He was saying the North.
The North itself.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough.
You think of like this, how good this series has been. You kind of think that, Headingley has its own sort of chapter, doesn't it, in an Ashes series. If you look back into it, it's you want to, every time you go there, there's narratives around every ground, isn't there? There's narratives at Old Trafford, there's narratives at Headingley, there's narratives at Edgbaston.
Narratives at Trent Bridge. Won in a final ball, and got the wicket in 2015.
Do you think home advantage has to come into it? So we know for a fact that they're very strong at home anyway, but Australia purposely will always play the first Test match at the Gabba. 1, because it's tradition, but 2, because they very rarely lose there. They call it the Gabba Tour, don't they?
Yeah. Well, in that case, we should never play an Ashes Test match at Lords again.
Yeah.
Because we never win there.
Still, it's a wonderful occasion at the Lords Test match, I think. Take the the elitist thing people say out there. I think it's cricket. It's pure cricket there, isn't it?
Yeah.
That is a place for cricket lovers, isn't it? You can go there and you don't have to wear the egg and bacon tie to sort of like appreciate
it. Connor Evans says Trent Bridge is boring as fuck.
I've never found it particularly.
I don't think it's the best. I don't think it's the best wicket in the world. No, the best wickets are probably
wicket. I mean the ground. I don't take the wicket into
I'm not asked about what
the good wicket.
I'm asked about what the stands look like.
Why not?
When I'm watching it on TV.
Well, no, but the experience of obviously as a theatre and going as a spectator.
I think the most important thing as a spectator is the wicket, innit? Trent Bridge is one of the worst wickets in the country, I think, for Test cricket.
Why?
I think because it's just flat. It's always dead.
Well, it's flat when Broad took 8 wickets.
Yeah, but it was just bloody. That was in that era where we just produced green tops, didn't we?
Yeah. What do you make of this wicket?
I think the best 3 cricket wickets in the country are Old Trafford, Headingley, and the Oval. And we've seen that. It was brilliant. The pace that Wood was bowling last week at Headingley, that's exactly what you want. Again, getting up at 90 mile an hour. This spins, it bounces. The Oval's the same. It's often kind of the carry, isn't it? The bit bounce and carry that you're really looking for.
So, talking of spin on pitches, Moeen Ali first innings, thoughts?
I thought he bowled well. He's had a good match, hasn't he?
I think what we found, and it's very rare to England to be on the positive side of this, but we saw the difference between having a spinner, which Moeen is, over 200 Test wickets. He's rightfully a spinner. And then we saw Pat Cummins saying, "Well, we've gone with all these seam options, and we've got Travis Head." Travis Head he stood out as a real part-timer, I thought, and England knew it. England knew it was the chance. He offered quite a few full tosses, and any decent batsman, as we know, to a part-time spinner is going to take him to the cleaners.
Yeah. Well, Moeen's obviously a spinning all-rounder. He probably, particularly in the early stages of his career, and probably deep down in his heart, sees himself as a batsman who bowls spin.
Yeah.
But he probably is. He's not a part-timer. Definitely not. He has 200 Test wickets. But he's a spinner who really rips it. If you look at him compared to like Jack Leach is a less of a turning, kind of more
perseverance, isn't he?
Metronomical spinner. Yeah. Ali will really give it a rip. He'll bowl some crap. We all know that.
What's fascinating about having 5 Test matches in Ashes series, I think the outlook looks completely different. Do we have these tight contests? What I mean is, if Leach is in content, if Leach is playing all these Test matches, I'm not to say that England cricket. I mean, certain twists and turns that they go differently, certain contours of the game. It's just slight, moments and slight inclusions can veer off the Test match in so many different ways, isn't it?
It's really interesting though, because both Leach and Pope's injuries have kind of allowed England to balance the side better with the fact that Stokes can't bowl. Because not having Stokes as an all-rounder, if we have Leach in there, it would be your number 7 batsman. Wilkes would probably have to bat 7. That'd feel really high. Or you have to go in there with Leach and 3 seamers, and then if you're trying to fit Wood in, that's tough. So I think one thing that Moeen showed in this game is, as much as he can be, really frustrating because he's got so much talent, the talent he's got and the ability to be as versatile as he is, that innings, that 54 batting at number 3 was vital, really, wasn't it, for just keeping root.
Fair play to him for actually throwing his hat in the ring to do it. We said this on our pod, didn't we, midweek, that it was a lot of it felt because of many others were comfortable in the cosy positions. Brooks happy at 5, Root wants to bat 4, but Stokes wants to bat 6. Bairstow doesn't want to bat 3, probably.
Why do you think? Because I do think Moeen is probably criminally underrated when it comes to Test cricket. Why do you think that is?
I think what it is that, how do I answer this the best sort of way? He burst onto the scene, I think, I remember playing in India at home when he came. Yeah. I think certain travelling experiences, I think he's played in England teams where we've notoriously struggled for runs.
Yeah.
So I think when we notoriously struggle for runs, it's always been hard for a spinner to really, pin themselves down onto a game. I think he'll admit himself that he's had consistency issues. You think, I always think he's been very welcome in England teams, but certainly for his batting, I think he has been tried and tested in pretty much every position.
Yeah.
And I think he's been public about that in the past, hasn't he? Which I think has somewhat affected his rhythm in Test cricket. There's no denying he's a desirable pick, isn't he, in franchise cricket for most people. He's got bags of ability. When he's on form, he's brilliant to watch. But I don't know if the system itself has kind of confused Moeen Ali, especially his batting. With bowling, wow. Sorry, we had to interrupt there because we've seen a deadly in-swing at 92 miles an hour.
That looks like reverse, to be fair. It looks like it's tail in.
Is it? Sorry, yeah. Did you get the monologue?
No, I get what you're saying. I think in eras where you've got less kind of consistency of selection because you probably have not as talented players. So if you think of the 90s and the last decade or so of English cricket, when we probably have had lots of players coming in and out, lots of different openers, everything else, the more versatile of a player you are, the more that can kind of hinder your development as a Test cricketer. So if we think in the 90s, probably the two that were most versatile were Butcher and Stewart. Open at times, Butcher was an all-rounder at times, batting at 7. Stewart would be batting at 7, 6, 4, opening with the gloves, not with the gloves. And we've almost seen, in some ways, Moeen and Bairstow kind of replicate that in the last decade of being the two most versatile players. Bairstow's taking the Stewart role, Ali being kind of more similar to Butcher in terms of an all-round kind of cricketer. And you just lose that kind of consistency in what your job is, that message from the management of what they want from you. And I think that's probably why Moeen is kind of not. People always feel like he left a little bit out there, but I must admit, I looked at his stats. There's not much between him and Flintoff. He's got more 5s than Flintoff.
Yeah.
He's got about the same amount of wickets. He's got about the same amount of runs in about 10 less games. You know, Flintoff is known for 2 great kind of series, 2005 and 2009. There wasn't loads in between.
It's when you do it, isn't it? That's what people are expecting.
It's when you do it.
Whereas we have another podcast to listen to, and they always joke about runs that count, don't they? You know, Ashes runs count for more than runs at home to a lesser opposition, don't they?
Yeah, but I think Moeen should, and I think once the dust settles kind of on his Test career, I think people will look back in hindsight with the way he performed in the Owen Morgan years, and then what he actually did for the Test side of a really talented player who, in many other sides, would have been a number 7, kind of consistent spinning all rounder.
Sure. Certainly a decorated career. Just on this, Bob, we've got just under an hour left. Would you say that as long? I mean, Smith and Labuschagne look like the anchors dropped here for sure, but they're not playing any shots. They're looking to survive. As the sort of the last hour sort of comes drawing in, does the pressure actually build? Because your objective obviously is to survive.
Yeah. And
is obviously any sort of wickets that fall now, does that increase the sort of anxiety there? Because Australia clearly set a mission.
Yeah, I think the objective for Australia is simple. Just use it as a net, bat the overs that happen to avoid the rain.
Yeah.
That we get in, and just try and get through the match. They're not going to win the match now. They've got very little chance of winning it. So
the thing that will save Australia here is rain, isn't it?
Yeah, Labuschagne and Smith will just be seeing this as a net. Both of them, particularly Smith, have really good records at Old Trafford. That's what worries me. And I think that in some ways in this last hour, I think there's a chance they might go on until 7. It is quite clear and bright. The lights doesn't look like it'll be too bad this evening.
Where about as the crow flies, how close are we to Old Trafford here?
Like 5 miles away, would you say?
I read that last night.
Yeah. So I think you can take a few risks here if you're Stokes and maybe bring Ali on for a bit, maybe try a bit of route.
Yeah.
Rotate the seamers from the other end, keep them fresh, short, sharp spells.
Yeah.
If it starts to reverse as well, I think Waltz could be useful. He's got a little bit more pace, doesn't he, than Broad and Anderson.
What I'd like to know about Waltz, he's bowled some really good full deliveries.
Yeah.
That have really caught some of the Aussies by surprise. You saw the wicket that got worn, a really good delivery.
I think in these kind of situations, what's key for England is you've got to stay patient, you've got to stay in the game, haven't you? You can't start chasing it. You can't start trying to bowl a miracle ball every ball.
Yeah.
As we see Simon Jones bowl a miracle ball.
It is one of the most iconic deliveries ever, isn't it? I think you were a big Simon Jones fan, weren't you? Do you see he had on Twitter? He was having this really awkward exchange with Tino Best.
Right.
He's got a bit to say about himself. Obsessed with pace.
Right.
Really hammering into Simon Jones about obviously his pace and saying I was quicker and you're really childish, really.
Yeah.
Simon Jones said, "Yeah, but I knew where everyone was going."
Yeah. I don't think Tino Best was good enough to lace Simon Jones's boots.
I always recall Tino Best nearly getting a century, do you?
Yeah. So then Anderson's back on. I suppose with the reverse, Anderson is a swing bowler.
Prime suspect, isn't it? I mean, we've not seen some of those mere unplayable balls that Jimmy Anderson can produce. Is now the time? Is this the conditions? Is this? He's not been happy with some of the conditions of the pitches and the sort of scene he's found himself in. Is this, you feel, where he can flourish?
Well, that's what the romantic would say, isn't it? One last hurrah from Anderson, a great spell, a 5 for. Feels like this probably is his last Test match at Old Trafford. Definitely his last Ashes Test match at Old Trafford. If he could run through Australia here and kind of make it 2-2 going into the Oval, well, tantalising, wouldn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
I think if England make this 2-2, I think they win the Ashes. I think.
Oh yeah, Australia I think the magnitude of this defeat for Australia, the fact if I don't think England are going to win tonight, but if they put a dent in Australia tonight and then finish them off on either any brief bits of play we get on Saturday and Sunday, it's not like a close-knit defeat. It's like when England obviously playing Australia, it's a different magnitude defeat, isn't it? You sometimes come beyond the realms of repair. And I see a lot of legs in Australia. Do you? For the first time, I've seen Cummins look weary. You saw Stark fall on his shoulder. They're down a spinner. They're a bit unsure about picking the backup spinner. They've got opener questions. So just off the back of one defeat and the performance so far today, the last couple of days, you're already getting that sort of anxiety in the mind. Psychological impact, you're right, yeah.
And I think that's right. And Stark's injury, it looks like he's carrying niggles. I think Stark's been their best bowler, really, in this match particularly. He's shown kind of a bit of extra pace and nip on this.
I just think there's something happening here, but I've seen a couple of playing misses, ball doing just enough. It's just, you feel like there's a ball out there, don't you?
Do you not feel, though, Labuschagne and Smith, like, the reason why they're so good is because they're so lucky at times. Like, they do play and miss
Crawley,
a lot.
Interestingly, Crawley was very modest in his interview yesterday. Did you see it?
Cut of that. A little bit of an off-cut.
Did you see Crawley's interview? Very modest. He was saying something like, well, yeah, I get luck, but it's kind of just what I build my game on. I know that if a few things go my way, I can capitalise and really take the game to the opposition.
I think that's what the best batsmen do, isn't it? Is when there is a drop or they slice one down past the stumps for 4, you switch on again and you concentrate and you go and make it the opposition pay more than anything.
For sure.
So in terms of kind of when we look down the Australian lineup, it's obviously a very long batting lineup in this match. These two are obviously the ones, the behemoths that you have to get past.
Yeah.
Who's the one outside of that really kind of scares you in terms of England rattling through?
In this scenario, I'm not as concerned. If this is a chase, obviously what's to come is probably the biggest threat. Really, you feel like a Mitch Marsh or a Travis Head can take the game away.
Yeah.
I suppose immediately the next best. It sounds a bit obvious, but the next best batsman Head, and whether obviously he can start to put some damage, demoralise us, put us off our line a little bit. It really does feel, but these two are the sort of, if Australia are going to reach parity, let's just say, you feel like these two have got to do the lion's share of it.
Yeah. It feels like these two against Wood right now, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We're in a bit of a holding position.
Yeah. There's still runs to be scored on this pitch, isn't there? If you want them. But right now, I don't think Australia want. I think they've consolidated.
Yeah. It looks like Ali's coming on for Wood at this end.
What's made you say that?
Who's starting to take his out?
Right, sorry. That's an itch.
Yeah, true. We'll see if Ali comes on. I think it's likely that he will.
So what?
Yeah,
Have a drink, but you've done a lot of talking. I'll comment on Moeen Ali, who's going to come on. We've seen a little bit of spin, like I mentioned. Travis Head, certainly not obviously close enough to the mark. Really recognised as a part-timer, I think, in that first innings. But we'll see what Moeen Ali can do. We know he can produce these wonder balls. I think we know that he can cause right-handers problems as well as left-handers. So, it'll be interesting to see how Labuschagne handles him. He's just had 91, 92 miles per hour pelters from Wood. And now he's coming up against some spin.
I think that's the important thing in times like this, is making sure that the batsman, you constantly mix up the rhythm of the game. Had Wood on at 95 miles an hour. Anderson's bowling kind of outside or off stump, bit of a holding position. And then you can bring Ali on now. It's a different challenge. It's a different pace.
Yeah.
And just kind of keeping it cycling through and seeing if you can just burgle a wicket out of one of these two. So it's the second session of the India-West Indies Test match.
Talk to me.
India are 374 for 6.
Okay.
And Winviz says they've got an 86% chance of victory, 12% chance of a draw, a 2% chance of a West Indies victory.
Have you had a look into what sort of crowds we get in these Test matches?
I think it's in the middle of nowhere.
This is in Port of Spain. I looked earlier.
I don't think there's any kind of attendance, to be honest.
Slightly depressing.
Yeah, that's the problem, mate. That's why we need...
Not seen many run-outs, have we, in this series?
No. I think we're a crap field inside. Like, when you watch the Australians, they like...
Even on the bad day yesterday, they were still diving, weren't they? Putting the bodies on the line. There wasn't like loads of misfields, was there? I think I saw an overthrow at one point.
Labuschagne and Smith, like when they throw the ball at stumps, invariably it hits the stumps. You know.
Bairstow's an interesting chirper, isn't he?
I don't think he's the best.
So I'm not seeing a massive loaded turn here from Moyali. Just
a couple of full balls that have been
slow outfield, isn't it?
Yeah.
Ball's going to get heavy quite quick. When's the new ball?
Well, they said that, didn't they? They said of this batch of Duke's balls that they've been playing with, after about 30 overs, it does go soft. So I
do find it still fascinating how this company has the monopoly for so many years. I see you go onto the Duke's website if you're sad enough to do that, and it looks like something that's put together by our mate Rush in the space of a couple of minutes. Just know them, obviously have the clientele.
Duke's balls are the best balls to out there, really.
Yeah, you'd say so. Didn't they try a Duke's ball in Australia and did quite work? Did it like?
Yeah,
did it decompose very quick?
Yeah, apparently that's what they say. I think, to be honest, Kookaburra's an Australian brand, and it's who's used Kookaburra in Australia.
They get about, don't they? I think a lot of people like the Kookaburra. India have their own version.
Yeah, SG.
I think, if I remember rightly, West Indies use the Duke.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
I think South Africa do as well. I don't know.
No, Kookaburra in South Africa, I think, yeah. Aligns into Australian.
Would you give Root a go? Would you give Root a ball?
Well, I'm not seeing loads here, but I must admit, I'm not seeing loads for spin. I think one of the things here is that Labuschagne pretty much missed one first innings, didn't he, to Moynihan for his dismissal. So they're kind of hoping for that. Like I said, I think England know that the batsmen to come, the Heads, the Marshes, the Careys, the Starks, whatever you've got, they will present opportunities with good seam bowling. They'll get the nicks. Even Mitch Marsh's, phenomenal century in the last Test match. He was dropped on 12. So I think they know that. They know these two are tight.
Yeah.
And you're going to, one way to get them out is by themselves, get themselves out.
Yeah.
It's a short interval here, haven't we?
I'm just going to look at the weather forecast. We've become.
Yeah, I don't know if ever. I mean, I know a lot of it obviously is subject to us actually having tickets for tomorrow, but I've found myself to be a complete weather freak this week.
Yeah. So tomorrow it's saying 90% chance of rain.
Positive. Got a good umbrella.
All day. So that's not great. And then Sunday, it's gone bad again.
Has it?
It changes like every.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah. I think the only respite I can get from Sunday is it's not as bad as Saturday on the forecasting.
And that is the tough thing here. Is you're not going to be able to force a result tonight. You're never going to be able to force a result tonight. But you had to kind of take the weather out of the equation as well to make sure that if the weather wasn't as bad as people are saying, you've left Australia with no chance of.
Just a couple of Australian batsmen. Carey's one of them. Labuschagne's other. I feel like a lot of them, at the time this series, they've been tied in knots a little bit whether to play or leave.
Yeah. Which
have led to a lot of dismissal. You saw Carey. I mean, a friend of ours in Australia said that it was a lucky dismissal of Carey's kind of play/leave. But he did it again last innings.
Yeah.
So there's something there, isn't there?
Just a little bit of indecision, isn't it, really? More than anything. What do you reckon to Carey? Right.
I think Carey's done really well coming into this side. I think he was kind of tossed into it with the Tim Payne debacle, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Australia for many years have toyed around after Gilchrist. They had obviously Haddon, which was
I think he was a good player.
Haddon did fantastically for so many years, and then since then it's been a little bit of trial and error. But I think he's there was always question marks over him, wasn't he? Decent one-day player. I believe he's ODI captain now, I think. Yeah, I think he is. Yeah, he took over from. I might be wrong. If I am, I apologise. Got a job, other things. Settle into this side well. Decent keeper, and not too bad with the bat. Shown some good signs with the bat.
I think he's better than Payne. Payne didn't inspire me.
Payne was a bit of a kind of a undesirable character in there for me.
Yeah.
Like I said, is that Daryl Hare?
I don't think so. No. Yeah. No, I doubt it.
We need Jimmy here. We need some inspiration. We need one of them balls. You feel for, what? A friend of ours, somebody up, said it was the first innings he couldn't buy a wicket, and it's sad to see it.
Yeah.
You don't want to see people like this sort of
It looks hard.
It reminded me of. It reminded me of Phil the Power Taylor's last ever darts match. He got slaughtered by Rob Cross.
Yeah.
And it was just like he'd already announced he was retiring.
Yeah.
He got so badly beaten in the final. Yeah. It was just a bit of a, even Rob Cross was a bit like, God, I feel bad beating this guy. You know what I mean?
I feel like sometimes, even as a spectator, you can see in a cricketer's eyes when it's kind of gone. You know, when they kind of know. Like I actually, you saw it at times at the end of Owen Morgan's career. I just couldn't really buy a run.
Again, I'm going to hold our hands up. We didn't see this before. We didn't envisage this at the start of the series. We were always saying we thought Broad might go before Jimmy, but Broad looks as good as ever, doesn't he?
I think Broad will bow out of the Oval. But
you still think he'll retire this series?
Yeah, I do. I think he's got 600 wickets. I think Broad gets up for the Ashes, doesn't he? I don't think he'll be that interested in playing West Indies and Sri Lanka next year. I know he recently said in an interview that he's addicted to Test cricket. But I just think it's a good time to go out, no matter what happens in the rest of this series.
I must admit, I do think these two are batting really well under the circumstances. I know it's not that treacherous out there. We're not seeing ridiculous bowling conditions. The sun's shining out a little bit here now, but two people you'd want in. If you're Australia's decision and you said give us two batsmen, they're going with these two, aren't they?
Yeah. That's why.
That's why it's such an important partnership. If England can break this now, you feel still with what we've got. Best part of 40 minutes before the close of play, real chance to make the mark on this game.
That is the one thing I always feel like when these two are together, it makes the task harder. When we had Labuschagne and Warner at the crease, I was thinking I'd rather Labuschagne go here than Warner, because then I've got Warner and Smith, and I feel I can get a Warner.
Yeah.
When these two are together, you just worried that they're going to settle in and you won't have an end to attack.
Did we have a catching opportunity there, Harry Brook?
Oh.
Doesn't look like he's over. Yeah, I think he just had landed solely on his elbow.
Brooks he's not had an outstanding series, but he's had a decent performance, hasn't he?
Yeah, well, I think he obviously had his coming of age moment in the Ashes, didn't he? At Headingley, home ground. Jeffrey Boycott writing an article on him in the stands. There's more to come from Harry Brook, isn't there?
Yeah.
The rest is unwritten, really, isn't it, when it comes to him in Test match cricket and Ashes cricket. But a decent knock again at the right time, albeit under less stressful conditions. But they all count, don't they? So I think it's probably Crawley, Brook making runs. There's a good sign of continuity. Whatever happens to England this Ashes series, you can at least see the next phase of how the squad's going to look, can't you?
Yeah. Brook and Pope.
Do you look for things like that? Because I do.
Yeah.
I look at it and go like, right, okay, but we can probably count on him in 4 years' time, or we can probably count on him in 6 years' time. He'll be good in India. These things do go through him ahead of it.
You probably look and you say Pope's locked in at number 3, it seems, for now. If Root left, you probably look for Brook to be your number 4.
Yeah.
They're the two young batsmen that we need to build around, I think. Jamie Smith is probably the one at Surrey at the moment that I think is the next cab off the ranks for me. I think he looks like a really talented and disruptive batsman that could fit this mould. That's number 4 for Surrey. Got a really good century this week.
Just realised watch-alongs would be nice for India, won't it? Mornings.
Yeah.
Coffee and croissants, I think.
I reckon we do the World Cup. That's in India. Yeah, that's good times for it. And then
I imagine a lot of night games will be on there, won't they? So
it's night games in India.
Yeah, the ODIs will probably start in the afternoon and conclude in the evening.
Yeah. There's what's like 9 o'clock starts, 8:30 starts, so it should be good.
Yeah. Fancy England's chances in that?
Yeah, it's England or India's, I'd say.
Yeah.
I don't think Australia.
Well, it's one of those in ODIs. Nobody knows how good anybody is anymore because it seems to be completely shelved, doesn't it, as a format? There's even suggestions. Have you heard that they're looking at canning them all together from a bilateral perspective?
Yeah.
Happy about that?
No. What's the better, a 50 over World Cup or a 20 over World Cup?
50 over World Cup for sure. Well, it's just there's more of a test, isn't it? You know what I mean?
Is it not just a case of right?
I feel you can fluke your way to a final in a T20. I don't think you could do that in ODIs.
No.
Do you know what I mean by that?
In general, if you're a cricket lover, the more cricket, the better, really.
Yeah. So I think Harsha Bhogle said something like he sometimes said, 30 overs of the ODI and they get bored. I've always found that quite an interesting session. because the game's poised. You don't know whether you're going to excel from it, because they always say whatever you are at 30, the eyes double it.
But, I think there's just so many Indian pundits that just seem to be hell bent on, for some reason, some ironic reason,
picking holes in every other nation except their own.
No, not every other nation. Picking holes in every other form of the game
that isn't the IPL.
That isn't T20.
Yeah, probably. I think there's a lot. I don't care about saying this. I think there's a lot of jealousy around the fact that Test cricket isn't well esteemed in India is around the world. I think that's just a fact. Harsha Bhogle even came out and said on Twitter, I don't need to completely keep quoting everything the man says, but he says, I must admit I'm somewhat envious of how popular Test cricket is in England.
Yeah, to be honest, I less see it as jealousy, and I think it's more just a agenda that the IPL needs to be centre stage of all cricket. And I mean, if you look at Test cricket, the way it evolves over 5 days,
it's unbeatable.
The twists and turns, it's just so much more interesting than 4 hours of slogging it.
And if you take the money out of contention, the players know it, don't they?
Yeah.
In terms of cricket being cricket, they know that.
I don't think the Harsha Bhogles of the world, the Sunil Gavaskars, the Ravi Shastris, Ganguly, all the rest of them, who have so much to say about West Indies cricket, which I don't think has that much to do with them. 50-over cricket and how that should be demolished, and this should be demolished and that should be demolished. Did they feel like this before the IPL was created, or did they actually quite love cricket? What makes me
happy is I think ODI has been like an absolute blast in India, hasn't it? If I think of ODIs like bilateral ODIs, I do think of like night games in India or like Sky Blue. They're the team I associate with being most associated with ODIs.
That famous final in the Wankhede Stadium when Tendulkar's on everyone's shoulders and they've just won the World Cup final.
Yeah, and there's a young Virat Kohli. Oh, we got a wicket, we?
I think it's just still that.
England are happy with this.
Has he walked?
Has he walked? He must have walked.
It's 3.
I must admit, guys,
you know what I think?
You'll have to apologise. We have no sound here, so if we look a little bit gormless, it's because of just our technological advances.
You know what I always feel?
Smith?
Yeah, it's PTSD from last time we played in these lot at Old Trafford. Because when we get Smith, I just think, don't be a no-ball. Don't be a no-ball.
Yeah, I do, yeah.
Keep your foot behind that line.
And Wood's very no-baller because he falls over a lot.
Yeah. Well, the worst, Stokes just can't bowl without bowling like 3 no-balls and all.
That is what...
That's big, and that's why we need Wood.
No, but when you've got... words out of mouth. Wood can do that, you know what I mean?
What I was thinking this afternoon was, and we'll probably never see it. Imagine if we had... Yeah. We won't see that. But imagine if we had Archer and Wood bowling together.
Yeah. It saddens me about Jofra Archer because I generally loved watching him bowl with you.
Yeah.
Your favourite ever spell is Jofra Archer bowling at Lords.
Yeah. That spell will...
You don't like me. We're both bowlers, so obviously I think me and you appreciate a good bowling spell. Like Dale Steyn's of the world, Brett Lee's, all these quality bowlers over the years. You enjoy seeing them more than a batting performance, don't you? You personally.
When I think about my top kind of Test cricket memories, you've obviously got the Flint off over at Edgbaston, where Langer and Ponting and everyone are jumping around. It's a bowling performance, fast bowling. You've got the Archer performance at Lords. Mm-hmm. There's the Flintoff performance against Callis at Edgbaston, where he's bowling the Yorkers and Callis couldn't see him and he's ducking and he's diving to Yorkers. And then 2 batting performances that I remember is Peterson when he sent the texts about Strauss and he came out and smashed Steyn and
cricket. It's just all narratives in it. You say a moment you associate with an event, don't you?
Yeah, he smashes Steyn and Morkel everywhere. It was as if he was a man possessed. And then there's the Stokes 260 at Cape Town, where he just again laid into the South African attack, and that was just unreal. And obviously, then the Stokes at Headingley.
What we've got now, boys, this is so interesting because Travis Head is as we know, susceptible to the short ball. The crowd are going to be up now. This is what England needed in inroads. We've still got a good half an hour of play left, so we've got.
You've got to get.
How many overs have you got in half an hour?
I think they could go to 7.
What? Because they've had a bit of rain in the afternoon. Yeah. How long were we off after lunch?
They lost a little bit of time. They lost about 15, 20 minutes, and they've not had the overs in. I think there's a chance that they could.
Do they factor in that there could be rain tomorrow?
No, they don't do that. It's stupid.
There's a lot of things that don't make sense in cricket, isn't there?
Well, Ian's brother texted me the other day and he said, why, when there's so much rain around, do England, the test matches not just start at 10 when you know it's going to be a rain-affected match? And these are non-cricket people who are watching the game for, first time or first few times.
You feel helpless to defend the sport, don't you?
And they're asking questions that are just talked about in the TMS box every summer. Like, why can't we help ourselves as a sport?
I wish the Sam was on, because that looks like an emphatic moment. Because look at the reaction there. You see the crowd up, Stokes up. This is really, really what we live for.
He's got to get it right here, Wood, now.
Yeah. Well, the tone's been set already. It's short. It's nasty. Travis Head isn't known for his defensive capabilities. He's known for being offensive.
Yeah. I'd keep Ali on with Head in now, because I think he'll be tempted with Wood on at the other end to have a go at Ali. And he's a left-hander, ball spinning away from him, bit of rough.
Yeah.
Just be tempted to keep Ali on against Head.
Yeah. Because
runs aren't really the issue here. No. It's the rain and it's getting the wickets. So
there's still, we're off screen now, but are we still 180 behind Australia, something like that?
Yes, must be, yeah.
How do you manage Wood here now? Because England obviously needs to win this test match, but they also need to. Wood's obviously been the key to, I think, England's breakthrough in success. The crowd appreciate this over. Obviously, he's just done. Do we keep on throwing him at Travis Head?
I think, like we have done so far, it feels like how many overs has he bowled so far?
I bowled about 6 or 7.
Yeah, it feels like he's just been doing little spells of 2 or 3, and then coming out and putting someone else in, and that feels like the pattern.
Big long run up in it. You got to throw all his body weight at it, and you
don't want to break him as well, because say by hook or by crook, by some form of weather miracle, we managed to win this match.
Yeah,
you need Wood for the oval.
I don't think winning is a miracle for this game.
No, it is with the weather.
You think?
Yeah,
a miracle.
Well, we just checked the weather then from the Met Office.
Yeah,
90% chance of rain Saturday and Sunday.
I like I said to you downstairs, but I think like we just use the old go-tos, don't we? The BBCs, the iPhones and stuff like that. A professional international sports team of a huge sport like cricket. Something's telling me the way we played this afternoon and how far we batted till we were all out. Something tells me there's a bit of confidence in this team that we're going to get some cricket available in either tomorrow or Sunday. Probably not tomorrow, likely Sunday.
I think in some ways, though, you have to, it's a bit cliche again, but you have to take the weather out of it and just say...
Tufnell said this, by the way. He said it's always in your mind, but you've got to try and your best.
You've got to make the decisions that you would make with... if you could get cricket in Saturday and Sunday, because there's a chance that you could.
Mm-hmm.
But... yeah, you can't just play it assuming that it's a 3-day game. And also, I think I've said this to you on WhatsApp and stuff. You can't beat this team in 3 days on a pitch like this. If you're a green top, you might be able to. But, you're not going to run through a team that has Alex Carey at 8. Like, you're not just going to knock them over in a couple of hours, are you?
No. Chris Watts introduced, thoughts?
Right move again. It feels like we're just rotating through. Bit more nip. I think he's got a nice little action going against the left-handers, and he's just coming across them at the moment. So it feels like the right one to Head.
Interestingly, just to touch on the showing that Steve Smith has shown a bit of deception to a shorter ball and looking to pull or hook. Sorry, should I say? Just a feather of his dismissal then, wasn't it? And that when it's just that bit quicker, that's all it takes.
What I do like about Smith is he does always walk. Very rarely waste a review.
Would you walk?
Yeah, to be honest, in this day and age, with reviews around, if you see the other side are absolutely convinced it's out, right, and you know it's out, there's not much point standing around, is there?
No, there's not. There really isn't. Although I think Stuart Broad has a different opinion.
But I wouldn't walk if they run out of reviews. I'd stand there. Do you know what I mean?
We're getting some movement now, Blot, and what's most important, England's tails are up. They're moving quick. Bairstow has caught that ball and almost immediately ran to the other end.
Yeah.
And he's speaking to Stokes as well. He's seeing something in this pitch.
Do you think
the wicketkeeper is so important?
I know. Do you think Bairstow's the tactical mastermind? I don't see him as being like...
Do you know what? When the route fall that was happening and England were all at sea and we'd lost 17 bleed test matches to us, there was rumours people touting Bairstow for captain.
See, See, that's where I've always thought it is strange how you've never really heard much like.
It's never properly been muted.
Oh God, that's gone up. Nah.
That's a good ball, wasn't it?
That was a good ball. And that is the thing about Walks is, if you do want to put a few up and around head, is he can do that also.
Sorry, what's Labuschagne saying to the umpire there?
I think we need a concussion test, and Labuschagne saying it's not hitting on the helmet, and the umpire's being a bit belligerent.
You know what's really funny about cricket is that like referees get like I watch Bolton Wanderers, and yeah, I hit him on the head. I watch Bolton Wanderers, and people are so vile towards referees for things that aren't even worth being vile for. Umpires, we have to accept them as like kind of grumpy old men, and just like shake our heads at them.
Joe Wilson's a terrible umpire. Did you see that one the other day?
Yeah, I did actually. Yeah. I always got a bit of time for Joe Wilson after Headingley a few years ago. I
just don't know how he gets a gig.
Well,
it just always.
I think, there's representations, and I think if I remember right, I think all Test nations have to produce an umpire. Might be wrong. If you look at the breakdown, it kind of works out pretty right. I think England and Australia perhaps got a couple extra on there, but there's representation from all Test playing nations.
Erasmus, I like Erasmus.
Erasmus is South African, isn't he? And you've got Joe Wilson's from the Caribbean. Aleem Dar from Pakistan.
I like Aleem Dar.
I think English umpires, British umpires are well esteemed. Michael Gough, Richard Kettleborough.
I suppose as an English cricket fan, you don't watch.
My dad, Steve O'Shaughnessy, albeit first class.
Yeah, you don't see lots of or you don't remember lots of performances from English umpires.
We're all to all these nice places,
Yeah, not bad.
Never short of work, are you?
I think I'd be a good umpire. I think
Would you be biased?
No.
I think I'd be biased. I'd bullet off the opposition.
But why would I be biased if I can't do England Test matches?
Well, in COVID, they kind of brought that back in. Is it even back out now?
I don't think
we've got neutral umpires now.
Post-COVID.
All right, isn't it?
Yeah. Especially, imagine with the Bairstow stuff and all that, if there was home umpires, that'd be a nightmare.
I do like the merry-go-round of umpires. They're very recognisable, aren't they? Like Premier League refs. You know them. I don't know a first thing about League One and Championship refs in football.
Oh, you bloody!
Tell me that's not a drop. Tell me that's not a drop.
It looks like that.
He looks guilty.
It looks like he's caught up with that. I think that's a really hard catch though, because I think it comes off. Does it come off the back of the bat?
It comes off the bat. That's why you catch it.
No, I think he. Let's have a look at it. I think he's gone past it and then
last minute
caught it up. Caught it up and he's.
I hope it's not. This is
the other side of Bairstow, isn't it?
Yeah. They're not showing it straight away, so I don't think it's as bad as I make out.
Yeah, you are a bit quick to you're quick to have the upside of Bairstow, but you're also very quick to have the downside, aren't you?
I love Johnny Bairstow. I want him to utilise his talents.
Yeah, but he has this afternoon. But he's not.
He's not in this Ashes series so far. I don't think.
He's got 99 and 78.
Yeah, I mean, it's a different skill, isn't it? But there's been times in this series where I think we needed it. I don't know. I still think he's got a little bit more to do, and I think
he's definitely got room to improve.
Yeah.
I just think.
What, do you think this is dead set now? This is the way it is for the foreseeable? Because I don't think he keeps in India.
No, he won't keep in India. But he'll keep against the West Indies and Sri Lanka next summer.
Be good fun India series.
I think he might open again in India. Still.
False keeper.
Crawley out just for the India.
One thing to give, we've had a comment from the Sri Lanka saying Zach Crawley a winning knock. I think what we've found is that we found a batsman that is very capable against pace bowling, which is quite rare, isn't it?
I don't think his game suits the Indian pitches.
No.
I think Bairstow will be a good opener with Duckett.
Duckett is actually...
Duckett's a good player.
Do you look at Keaton Jennings again? That's always the question when we go to the subcontinent, isn't it?
The one that... They've got to get a shot.
Got to get a shot.
The one that I always think is susceptible in India is Ollie Pope, whether he's a real good player at spin.
The argument is there is you could obviously put Bairstow and Jennings in. You can maybe put Duckett free.
Yeah, you could have Bairstow.
You're not going to. Obviously, Root's fine, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, Bairstow. But Bairstow's one of our best players of spin. I think he's just a dead cert to play in India, no matter whether he's keeping or not.
Yeah, you're never gonna have. You can't have Bairstow with the gloves in India. It's just that's just not worth it. I think it'd be really interesting to see if Moeen Ali carries on to India.
So what do you reckon, Bob? If we can get Labuschagne tonight, England in the ascendancy, weather permitting, still 177 behind.
5 tonight, one.
5 tonight. 2 wickets away.
Yeah.
Judging how long we've got, I mean, standard 20, but you think we'll get more tonight? Minutes, that is.
Yeah, I know I'm biased because I'm an England fan, but it seems with all the overs that we're going to lose tomorrow and Sunday, and all the overs that we've lost so far in the match to rain, it just feels like surely if the light's good, you carry on till 7.
I'll restructure this question for you. So, if the weather, let's just say tomorrow's a washout, but the weather forecast changed, it tells you we're going to get half a day of dry weather. Do England win this game? No.
Not if we don't get them for 5 tonight.
Okay.
If they're coming back 102 for 3, and you've got 2 sessions to bowl Australia out, I think Australia have got a real kind of like, they can just sit in, can't they?
Yeah.
Slow the game down, concussion tested, drinks there. It'll be like England at Cardiff that time.
I think Labuschagne batting really well tonight.
Yeah, he is. I mean,
we talk about England's strengths, about how we've got players that will come off and really take the game to Australia. But Australia's strengths, when they find themselves in a situation like this where they're on the back foot, they've got the well equipped for it, more so than England are.
Where would you rank Labuschagne in terms of Test?
I think he's up there certainly. I mean, Test cricket is obviously struggling in some nations in terms of how competitive they are, but despite him not having a century outside of Australia, I still look at Labuschagne and think he's the nearest thing to what makes a quality Test cricketer. He's not at Root level. He's not at Steve Smith level. He's probably not at looking around some of the Indian batsmen there. But I think he's absolutely up there and he warrants his position.
Yeah. Would you put him alongside Babar?
Yeah, I would. I'd probably in Test match cricket, I'd still probably position him slightly above Babar Azam.
Would you?
Yeah, I would. I think Babar Azam's still got a lot to do outside of Pakistan, I think. My personal opinion.
Oh, yeah. To be fair, Pakistan haven't played.
What a weird ball that was. He never looked right there, did he?
I'm guessing he's tried to jump out and get a big hooping in-swinger in there.
Perhaps.
And he's
just seen Wood bowl really wide of the crease and almost
lost his radar. He does jump out wide. And it looks like he's probably just
slingy, isn't it?
Trying to really reverse one back in.
Bairstow's look of despair. The good mates, Bairstow and Matt Wood, I believe.
I find it strange we've not seen a replay of that catch that you were losing your head about. It mustn't have been that bad.
No, I think the defects of having no sound has made me and you react differently to that. Such a solid defence, Labuschagne, hasn't he? Yeah. That's
good player of pace. It looks like maybe last ball for Wood for a little bit. Try someone else.
Stuart Broad?
Yeah, bit of up and down.
Yeah.
Broad to the left-hander head.
End of the day, got that ball in him. We have a left-hander at the crease.
He likes the drama, doesn't he?
Yeah. Crowd will get pumping. It's just that pace of Wood, isn't it?
Yeah.
We probably might get another. I mean, like you said, if we've got another.
He's only bowled 5 overs, but I just think
we could just do what you said, a couple of overs rest, and then.
Yeah, he was at 88 mile an hour then, and he obviously just had that wide, and you just think.
He's just got one of them balls in him, like we saw to Steve Smith.
Yeah, 86 mile an hour there. Maybe just give him a little bit of a. It depends whether he'll get too stiff in the field and not want to come back, and he just wants to go straight through.
Yeah.
But
keep him hydrated, I think.
Yeah.
I'm sure the England backroom staff will be keen to sort of keep their eye on Matt Wood.
So where are we due to be sat in the?
I think we're quite high up.
Are we?
So it's not a good place to be. It's raining.
It's supposed to be thunderstorms tomorrow. So
yeah, I mean,
dangerous.
You know me. I look at life in an optimistic light, but a lot of every single weather app I see seems to fill me with doom.
If we just
woke up with bright sunshine.
It's just like a blanket of clouds swinging around everywhere. it is a shame. This is it. I mean,
we picked
the wrong day, didn't we?
Yeah, I mean, considering this is touted as one of the best Ashes series since 05 or better than 05, you'd like to have said you've been a part of it, haven't you?
Yeah.
But we consume our cricket in other forms, this and TVs, and how accessible it is through radio and various apps you've got. So interestingly, Travis Head is not off the. Well, he's probably got a single there, but not coming to the crease playing his normal game. Has he had a different message in there from the Aussies? As Andrew McDonald, as Pat Cummins said, look, I know your usual game is to take the game on, but have they looked at him and said tonight's not the night for that? Try and adapt to something different.
I don't think in modern cricket it's that top down in terms of messaging. I think often it's kind of seeing that players need to make those decisions themselves. I don't think if you were any Australian batsman, even England, if England were in this situation that Australia are in, you're not coming in teeing off, are you? I mean, that would just be reckless.
It's just what you actually know.
What do you mean?
I mean, is that all you know? Can you adapt your game? Like, for instance, you couldn't ask Zach Crawley to come in and block it out, could you?
No, but
you could, but yeah, it's probably.
Let's put it this way: if Brook came in, very aggressive batsman with England in this situation, I don't think he's stepping away to the leg side and trying to swat it through.
No,
middle
for sure. We did see what I was impressed about Harry Brook is we did see a concentrated effort to change is what we had seen so far from Harry Brook in Test cricket. He was happy to, know that he was not back with the tail, but losing partners. Certainly when Chris Woakes came in, we saw a maturity level to him, didn't we?
Yeah, I think maybe all of the England side was slightly high on their own supply earlier in the series, and they've just all kind of reined it back in.
Gradually sort of matured into the series, haven't they?
I mean, he's got a good record, Travis Head, hasn't he?
Labuschagne here, 37. It feels like he's been here for ages. Yeah. He's just played his game, the boundary.
It's still flat, and it's a good wicket. This 100 for free. You're not. If there's time in this game, and the rain's not around, in an Australian position, you're not overly worried with your position.
I suppose if there's any sort of consolation, this is really scraping the barrel here. Worst comes to worst, this test match does draw, and Australia retain the Ashes. England can still not lose, and they can draw it like last time. And I know that the earn stays in Australia, but it's what I would say is that this sound and the great cricketer made this sort of reference to the day. If Australia don't win here, they've not won since 2002. This is the best Australian side we've seen since probably 05.
Yeah.
It's going to probably take a natural dip because they're going to lose some key figureheads out there. They're going to lose Warner. Next time around, will Smith still be around? If he is, will be the same.
Khawaja won't be around.
Khawaja won't be around. So they'll have some big boots to fill. They're probably not, and maybe some of the quicks they'll lose as well. They've probably never been as equipped to win a series in England they have now, have they? So you take some kind of consolation knowing that, fair enough, England don't win the Ashes, they retain it. Dust ourselves down. We're probably still a side in development. Do we go again? Yeah. Do you see what I mean by that?
Do you
like that perspective?
I understand where you're coming from. But I'd prefer the Gideon Haigh way of thinking about it.
What's that?
So Gideon Haigh said, I'm a journalist first. I'm a cricket lover. Oh no, a cricket lover first, I think he said. I'm a cricket journalist second. And I'm an Australian fan third. Which means that I'd like it to go to the Oval 2-all. Because I think, one, that's brilliant for Test cricket. Two, it's brilliant from a journalistic narrative perspective. And three, Australia, from being an Australian fan perspective, although you've not won the series yet, you get the opportunity to go and win the series away from home 3-2. Be an incredible win.
It reverberates around the country, that wouldn't it?
It just
the same way we would. I'm not saying we won't still love cricket. I'm sure we would, but the 2005 series inspired our childhood, didn't it?
Yeah.
Without a shadow of a doubt, more so than any other event.
2005
captivated everyone, didn't it?
It's the reference point for the greatness of Test cricket and a great love affair that was kind of reignited with Test cricket in England. Oh my God, catch that!
Oh, it's got to be out. What a ball! I mean, that is sheer pace, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's classic Travis Head dismissal. 91 miles per hour, completely
just
no man's land, isn't it?
Yeah, just It's like me, that.
There's no shame in that.
No.
I think he's actually looked more better than I'd looked there.
Yeah. Well.
I'm trying to give Travis Head some sort of kind of some respite from that, because it's when the ball's that quick, and then you're in the do I play, do I duck? They call swing ball in the corridor of uncertainty. That's like the kind of give me a term for that.
It's just fear, isn't it? He's taking his eyes off the ball, and he's just hung his bat out there. But like 92 miles an hour.
Your 5 wickets is on, man.
Who's in there? Marsh.
How much can someone? We've not got sound, so someone who's watching, please tell me if they've heard how long he's left in this game. How long are we getting some added time for the time we've lost to rain? No.
Yeah. So we get that.
We've got some.
See, he's taking his eye off it. Comes back into him maybe slightly.
It's perfect. It's just exactly what Duckett is placed there for, isn't it?
Pure fear, that.
And Stokes is thinking that, isn't he? He's positioning Duckett there, and he's saying this is he's waiting for that delivery, isn't he?
If England got 2 wickets here now, I don't know what it has to be. You got 2 wickets, 3 wickets in quick succession. There is always, and I don't think you can do it tonight. Like, I don't think you can practically win the game tonight, but you can claim the extra half hour, can't you? If you've got a chance of winning a game.
So you're thinking a couple of quick wickets?
I mean, that's absolute miracle stuff, isn't it? But
you're thinking hat trick stuff here now.
Yeah, I'm thinking Wood suddenly becomes,
I'm just going to see what we're like for time, but in terms of this, because obviously.
Wood, this is kind of a great advertisement of why we need to find fast bowlers in England.
For sure.
This has been incredible.
I saw something really interesting. The West Indies cricket team have got obviously challenges ahead, but Sir Curtly Ambrose has dedicated himself, has offered his services to travel around the Caribbean in search of fast-paced bowling.
Yeah.
Because we spoke about the raw talent being there. And I'm not saying, look, obviously, challenge. Let's put West Indies and their challenges to one side. I think a similar concentrated effort has to be made in England. We've had a spinner obsession, I think, for the last 20 years, haven't we? Finding a spinner.
Yeah.
Post Graham Swan, whatever, finding spinners. And we still have it to an extent now. But I think there is an equal argument for finding generally quick bowlers.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of other topics we've been going through a bit deeper, which I won't do now in this live session, but I think you get my gist of my ideas, don't you? Do you know exactly where I'm coming from, don't you?
Yeah, no.
That's annoying.
Sorry, cheers.
Still there.
Right, yeah. No, in high-quality Test match cricket, why are Australia such a good side to watch when they bowl, or have been over the years, is they've got 3 seamers who bowl 85 miles an hour to 90 miles an hour plus. Mm-hmm. They've got a world-class spinner. To win Test cricket around the world, that's what you need.
Their balance will always look better because they can always lean back on the spinner.
Now they've always wanted an all-rounder, Stokes all-rounder, a Flintoff all-rounder. They've never quite been able to get that. But when we've done really well in Test cricket against the Australians, against other nations, we've either had a world-class spinner like Swan, or we've had a really fast bowling lineup like we did in 2005, where you had Harmison, Jones, and Flintoff, who could all bowl at 85 to 90 mile an hour.
I'm desperate to see how long we've got left here. Jim Maxwell's put on Test Match Special. I think Australia are in a spot of bother here, which is very correct. I love Jim Maxwell. I think he's really good.
Would you offer up? Who's bowling at the other end now? Are you sticking with the plan? Are you sticking with seam? Are you offering up a tempter?
I think we've got to keep Wood on if we can for at least another over.
Oh yeah, I mean from the other end.
Oh, I'm getting Stuart Broad.
Broad.
Yeah, I'm getting Broad.
The drama.
The crowd are up.
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad idea.
We've actually not got a left-hander at the crease, but I don't think it's that much of a problem. Mitch Marsh again going to be out of his comfort zone. When you asked me that question, but about half an hour, 40 minutes ago, who are the next batsmen to come? Are you worried about? It kind of this, one of them's gone, Steve Smith, but now we've got a situation where we've got batsmen where this is the natural game, so it'll be really interesting to see. Yeah,
I think the one thing about these two all-rounders that they have in the middle order for Australia, and Labuschagne's probably similar as well. They have very good players of pace bowling. Green and Marsh played well. Between hip and the shoulder. You've got to, if you're bowling short, you've got to get it up around the head. And that's why I think in some ways, it won't be too, especially against Green, think about bringing Ali on. Just tempt him if you can get him in early.
Those full pacey ones are just a miss away out if Melby. They really, really are.
3 for 16 off 6 forward. It's not bad, is it?
So I'm going to rephrase the situation for you here now. If we've got confirmed play on Sunday or Saturday for half a day's play, and Mitch Marsh is out, not Labuschagne, are England still going to win the game? Because I think if I said Labuschagne's out, you'd feel really strongly about that, wouldn't you?
No, that's what. So when you ask me, half a day's play, 3 down, I don't think they've got a chance. Half a day's play, 5 down, they've got a very good chance. Those 2 wickets are massive, aren't they? You're big on that. Add 2 wickets.
Add 2 wickets.
You know, if we add 2 wickets to it, what were they? 103 for 5, 109 for 4. You know, Green looks a bit nervous.
That's what I mean. You've just got to think Cam Green's not really come to the fray, has he, in this Ashes series?
No.
You want him in soon, don't you? You want him in tonight.
They look worried, the Australians. You know, this is the time to do it.
Chris Walk, what the good thing about having Walks on, he doesn't blow you many bad balls.
No. Come on, Walks. You do need someone to back Wood up here. You can't all be Wood.
Just going to do a bit of browsing.
Yeah, it's a good ground, Old Trafford. Like, you look at it now with the development.
Tell you what, our mate D will know, won't he?
Yeah. So, a tweet from Lawrence Booth. Since they were both recalled, Mark Wood and Chris Walks have taken 23 of Australia's 34 wickets.
Just shows us
a huge impact.
I think it shows, you know, the reward for rotation as well.
Yeah, and the direction of travel, really. Maybe the changing of the guard. That you probably.
How many years have you got in Walks, do you reckon?
I think easily 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, Walks could lead the attack. New ball with Robinson, probably.
When the amount of wickets go down, even so, get a real more bunker mentality for Australia. So what I mean by that is, you know, there's probably part of them here that thought they could get close to this total coming and they chip away a little bit now. As the wickets sort of tumble, how do you feel they'll get more defensive?
Yeah, I think that teams, we see that in cricket, don't we? Collapses kind of spread through a side. I'm not saying this is a collapse because you know, they're only 194 at the moment, but as the tension builds in that dressing room, if another wicket goes now and Wood's coming in at Green and Marsh, you know, say Labuschagne goes and there's 2 new batsmen, then Carey's worried, you know, Stark and Cummins start to have to get the pads on. It just starts to build that tension, doesn't it, in the dressing room? That's what England need to do here, is just make sure they don't go anywhere, keep coming at them, you know, Walks, keep the pressure on.
Sure.
Batsmen want to score runs, you know. Labuschagne and Marsh aren't going to want to sit there and just defend all day. 6:30.
That's useless. 6:30 now.
England don't particularly look like they're rushing round. You know, if it is 6:30, there's only a minute left. We'll see. I think we'll get.
Here's another thing for you. If it was dry tomorrow, would England be winning? I think they'd win, wouldn't they, tomorrow?
Yeah.
Mind you, I think I think there's been a lot of consciousness around the weather.
It's horrible, really, isn't it? The Great British weather.
Yeah.
Like Manchester.
You said that, but the first couple of days have been fine, haven't they? It's just we're just in for a bit of a.
It's just cricket, isn't it?
Bit of a rain spot, aren't we? Another on there just could have easily so much gone to the stumps. I didn't see Warner's dismissal, but I imagine it looked very familiar to that.
Yeah, Warner just had one that bounced on him.
He's played on a lot, Warner, hasn't he?
The ball before, and then he just went a little bit at one that he probably didn't need to go out and chopped on. He's just trying to make it to that Sydney Test match that he said that he wants to retire out, isn't he, really? I think the good thing for Warner is he's a great catcher, and they don't want to disrupt their slip and their fielding. So it's no ball from Walks.
Well, if we are going to conclude very shortly, England have done so well against it, haven't they? They've had another fantastic day.
They've done everything.
Another harsh one for well, because the first innings one was apparently harsh, wasn't it?
Yeah, very tight. They've done everything that they can do, really, England. I don't think they could have done much more because it is a flat pitch. They declared on 200 lead. You're not putting that much time into the game, really, because you probably have to bat again. Australia are probably going to go past you. So I think they've done everything they can do from a tactical perspective. And you've just got to hope that the weather gods look after you.
Yeah.
Bit more bounce there from Wolves.
I know Australia want to retain the Ashes, but if they're honest with themselves, there'll be some there, but the proper cricket people would say they won't want the Ashes to conclude this way. Do you know what I mean? They probably know they've been beaten well here.
Yeah.
I think if even out in England, I know we'd probably have a bit of a joke about the rain and stuff like that, but I kind of feel we were due on here, really, weren't we? I think going for him personally, in my mind, that's what I would say.
Yeah, I think everyone wants this to be a series that's on par with 2005. Now, if it went into, I feel like a broken record, but if it went into the Oval 2-all, it would start to merit something along the lines of 2005. The cricket's probably not been quite at the standard of the 2005 stuff, but I mean, when you've got the likes of Warne and McGrath and some of the all-time greats playing, probably not going to get quite up to those standards ever again.
So we've gone past the half-past match. There must be at least another half an hour of play, surely.
Yeah, there's so much in me that says why, if we want Test cricket to survive, why are we not trying to push this until the light's not good enough?
So it's 18:23. There are 20 minutes until stumps. So I'm guessing that's quarter past, isn't it? Quarter to, yeah.
So England have got another 15 minutes, 10 minutes.
So how many overs is that? 3?
3, 4. You got to get around.
Do you bring a spinner on? I don't think spin's getting it done at the minute, is it?
No.
It doesn't look quite ready for a Moeen Ali sort of.
If you brought a spinner on, particularly like a spinner like Root, and just gave him a gamble, a bit of a golden arm one, I suppose you could get more overs of wood in.
But he is blockable though, isn't he, Root?
Yeah, but he can burgle wicket. But what I'm saying there is, if Root can get through his over quickly, at half the pace that Wokes can get through his over, you might be able to get 1, 2 more overs of wood in at the other end.
You feel Mitch Marsh is going to veer out the way of these short balls? Another benefit of being taller, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah. He's from Perth, isn't he, Mitch Marsh?
Yeah.
And they're always the best players of
short pitch bowling.
Yeah. Just 2 more there. That's what you're begging for.
2 more would be perfect, wouldn't it? A couple of people left off early to get into Manchester. A few beers. Why the hell would you leave?
Plenty of time for beers after.
It's interesting because there is a bit of variable bounce, isn't there? Some really leap and some kind of stay a little bit low, which is the beauty of deteriorating.
Looks like it's slightly tiring, although it's still up there, the pace. Just looks like it's lost a little bit of sharpness, doesn't it?
Mitch Marsh, taking a little bit of time out of the game, stopping, isn't he?
So it looks like Stokes has just said that he'll bring the spinner on. Probably Moeen.
We're going to see Stuart Broad?
No, it looks like the spin's coming on. Unless, I suppose, Broad could come on at Wood's end.
England would love to burgle a couple here now. Yeah. Really would. Still, are you satisfied with this, where we're at? I know you wanted 5, but we close on 4.
Yeah, you've just got to say you've done what you can do for the day. See what you get with the weather.
Well, that's for the weather gods. Have another look. It's very depressing, checking out the weather. It's frequently. Sunday's dipped a bit, I'm afraid.
I know. Is that the Met office?
That was BBC. I'm afraid the other ones aren't as accurate as that.
I think the Met office is supposed to be the one, isn't it? They're the ones who like.
There's weather about for sure. We've had a friend of ours, I think you've seen it today, who's been clutching at straws as best he can.
More positive than you.
Yeah. Well, one thing I have got a bit of a weakness for is weather.
Right, so it looks like it's locked in for tomorrow.
Sunday?
Sunday, 7 p.m. we might get on.
Wow. Not really that set.
Yeah.
These big rain clouds, though, when they come, they stick around, don't they?
Would you? I mean, I wouldn't say this if I was an Australian fan, obviously, but would you ever consider, like, should there be a reserve day?
I've said this. I've said that the World Test Championship does have that backup day for rain.
Yeah.
Mind you, I don't even think Monday looks like cloudy, to be honest. But
yeah, but at least you can say you've tried.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Do you remember the inaugural World Test Championship between India and New Zealand? I think it rained for like the first 4 days, and they managed to turn it over in a couple of days. But
I suppose the man of the match really for the next couple of days has to be the ground staff. It's got to, any small window, mop it up quickly.
I heard obviously the Headingley ground staff worked through the night, didn't they, in order to conclude the day's play. You'd like to think that that's another benefit what we spoke about having it at the best grounds. I'm not saying the best grounds have the best groundsmen, but you'd like to think the bigger grounds with the bigger clubs with the bigger infrastructure have the necessary teams and equipment to obviously be there for situations like these. We've got Jimmy Anderson coming, haven't we?
Wood looks done though. I don't think Wood's coming on for the foreseeable now. I suppose the one thing with the weather around, if you were taking any advantage, gives time for plenty of rests. You could just
come out fresh.
Yeah, ball spells.
It's not a great scenario to come out for its survival because I think we're beyond the realms of Australia winning this game, aren't
we? Yeah, Australia can win.
Even themselves. So whatever window they're coming in to survive, which is difficult, isn't it, when you've not got your eye in.
So Anderson's coming on from the non-Jane. It's the Brian Statham end, isn't it?
Okay, interesting.
Glenn McGrath, our best mate on TMS, has said that he thinks that the sign at the Jimmy Anderson end isn't big enough. Really concentrating on the big stuff, Glenn. Adding the value in the commentary box. However,
it's a more favourable topic of his of mine.
As I have looked at it, it is a very small sign, isn't it? I'll give him that.
I think Jimmy's quite a modest guy. I think that he's turned down knighthoods for the sake of not being sledged.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think title and prestige is not really like his thing.
Yeah.
I think he obviously accepts it and embraces it, and probably you'll see more of it obviously once he retires. But I think for now he's still focused on obviously, being the master of his craft, which he's at 41, I believe he's in a few days. Very much, obviously, you think the respectability is still there, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm absolutely starving.
So am I. I think I'm going to order a curry.
So you got a good record at Manchester, Anderson, 22.
Just while we're here, obviously, thanks to people that have tuned in. We didn't really broadcast this out there that we're going to do. It's more of an impromptu thing, as we said. But we obviously very much enjoyed doing them. It's something we're going to build on, isn't it?
Yeah, it's good practice, isn't it? You never know. We could have seen a miracle tonight.
We could have not to be. We're going to have to, like I said, cross our fingers and hope that we get some dry spells to finish these Aussies off. A couple of delaying tactics now from Mitch Marsh, changing his gloves, back on the floor. You can bleat and moan, but it's what England would have done in this situation. I recall Cardiff. I think we had the physio and the water bar maybe 3 or 4 times.
To be fair to those that are more positive about the outlook, it did say it was going to rain today. We've had a full day's play, really, haven't we?
Well, apart from lunch, but yeah, it's right. See, this is not a lot wrong with what Jimmy Anderson's doing here now. Some good balls, tight. Mitch Marsh is fending it off.
It's just that little bit lack of pace, isn't it?
Yeah.
What kind of curry are you going to get?
I like a biryani. Yeah, biryani's my choice with a masala sauce, not the custom vegetable sauce that you get with it, like a thing. But biryani's got a lot going on. It's rice, it's peppers, it's a good type of heat. Shell Fraser's always a good choice as well.
Yeah, we had a curry last night.
From where? The local?
Crompton Way. Across from Texaco. It was at Mum and Dad's.
Oh, right, okay. So it was back home.
Yeah.
With your mum and dad?
Yeah.
It's very unlike your dad to get taken, wasn't it?
Jenny's birthday.
Oh, right, so he was forced. Hands were forced.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're more into that now because my mum just hates cooking.
Well, I suppose. She's cut enough meals in her life, hasn't she?
Mm.
What did you go for?
We shared them. We had a paneer sag, chicken tikka karai, and another chicken one.
Crompton, where was this?
It's like across from the Texaco garage on Crompton Way, apparently. There's some shops.
All right. Who's found this?
Past Tom Cricket Club.
Who's found this?
Jenny, my mum, my dad.
All right, so it's tried and tested place, is it?
Yeah, it was all right. It was good. Yeah, I wouldn't not recommend it.
I like the simplicity. I say simplicity. Like the hassle-free nature of having it. You know what I mean? Very good. Any good ones around here?
Yeah, the Naz is all right. I recommend that. Shabna's all right across the road.
Yeah.
Chicken tikka sandwich.
I feel like a curry's one of the meals it would be less frowned upon to have on your own if you sat in a restaurant and had a curry.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
You had many meals on your own?
Yeah, quite a lot of time. Quite like it.
Working away.
Yeah. Sometimes you get a good book or something. You can.
Yeah.
Big fan of it. So, what have England got left in them?
But one over left here, haven't we? Really, 2 overs maybe.
The thing I always.
Ali's on.
What about it? What thing that I guess about this that kind of? I mean, I'm guessing Moeen Ali's on for another over of Chris Wokes or Jimmy Anderson. Sorry, whatever. The sort of like.
Can you just get Labuschagne in here now?
Well, yeah. I guess the thing about last overs is any wicket sort of ends play, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And, that's the kind of thing. But we wanted 5 wickets. So let's see if we can get them. Moeen Ali from the Jimmy Anderson end.
Yeah. Just need a Labuschagne. Lack of concentration. Yeah.
Bit of a gift.
Gives a signal.
Does put Mitch Marsh on strike, not as obviously as tuned in. Faced 22 balls, so stuck around for a few overs, but
it feels tough to win this game, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. It does. It feels like we do need a little bit of the elements, not just weather, but the pitch deteriorates a little bit more. Something on our side.
You see, then a hover cover broke this afternoon.
Did it? Oh, help with it.
Started raining. The hover cover.
Well, mate, you say that. Maybe a leak on the wicket.
Yeah, I'm used to it.
Scruff it up a bit. Yeah. You know what I mean? Someone fall over it.
Yeah. Come on, Mo.
I love the horticultural fascination in pitches of some pundits. Do you remember Michael Holden used to feel it, feel the grass and stuff?
Tony Gregg's a famous
Tony Gregg, yeah, in that
when
thing,
keys him.
Yeah. You'd be accused of cheating, wouldn't you feel that? Imagine the outrage. I love the casual. I love how cricket is still fun, but there's a casual sort of chumminess about it. So when Pat Cummins lost the toss, did you see that that Michael Everton was pretty much laughing?
Yeah.
At the thought, almost like that.
We have had some luck in this series from a toss perspective, haven't we? Yeah. It's a good ball.
Very good ball. That's the one he's going to go for. I think Mitch Marsh knows exactly where this is going to land. These last 3
looking for one to there's a bit of rough outside the right-hand off stump there, isn't there? He's looking for one to bounce and spit out of it. Big
tall man, Mitch Marsh. Is he looking for an LB, do you think?
I suppose Marsh would be looking to get all the way down, won't he? Get a big stride.
Big stock in Bolton, the Marsh family.
Yeah.
As we've documented before.
Well, they were talking about Greenmount this morning.
Mark Taylor. He actually appeared there, and Nige Party, don't you? A good friend of mine. My dad's met him, said he was a great bloke, really good atmosphere.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed his commentary, have you?
Yeah, no, out of the Australians, I think him and Ponting are the better
I'm not
ones.
sure I could withstand my ground sky, could you?
I think it's up there with Gavaskar for worst commentators.
Do you know what I got from one of my Australian pals? They went, "That's how we feel about Ian Ward." And I kind of thought, what? Ian Ward? I mean, very non-hateable guy, isn't he? And he doesn't do a role of much opinion. He's more of an anchor, isn't he?
Stumps that.
I think we've got stumps, but have we got stumps? One more, maybe.
Looks like
stumps. There we have it.
See us out, Rob.
113 for 4 Saturday. What does it hold? We don't know. Sunday, right now, what does it hold? We don't know. England still in the driving seat in the ascendancy. This has been our 3rd live session. We've really enjoyed it. We're going to plan more of these. We'll probably give you a little bit more notice next time. We've been the 212th men. I've been Rob Taylor. He's been George Bottomley. We'll see you next time.
Cheers.